Have you ever imagined a mountain range so vast, with endless forests and deep valleys, that it has preserved its wild character for millions of years? True to its name, the Appalachian region reveals a world of remarkable diversity, where mountains, streams, forests, and valleys blend into a landscape of extraordinary natural beauty. Winding waterways, towering cliffs, and ancient woodlands showcase terrain shaped by millions of years of geological change, creating scenery that feels both mysterious and awe-inspiring. A journey through the natural wonders of Appalachia offers an experience that is wild, vibrant, and unforgettable, where every view reveals another breathtaking chapter of the natural world. Great Smoky Mountains National Park, located on the Tennessee-North Carolina border, is distinguished by mountain peaks rising above 6,562 feet within the Appalachian Mountain System. This area features ancient shale geological formations created through hundreds of millions of years of changes in the Earth's crust. The entire core region of the national park is covered by rugged sandstone cliffs and deep, wild valleys. This land is one of the most biologically diverse biosphere reserves in the world, with more than 19,000 identified species. Its characteristic humid climate sustains old-growth forests and thriving endemic vegetation. From icy streams, cutting through rock cliffs, to subarctic spruce forests, the ecosystem here is in constant motion. The most distinctive feature of this natural wonder is the dense blue mist that continuously blankets the vast valleys. This natural phenomenon is caused by the evaporation of organic compounds released from the dense forest vegetation. In the early morning, sunlight shines through the blue haze and illuminates the gray tones of the ancient rocky peaks, bringing the landscape to life. Viewed from Clingman's Dome, the highest peak in the park, the endless mountain ranges appear like a vast sea of forest rolling through the mist. The immensity of the rugged valleys combined with the tranquility of centuries-old tree canopies creates a magnificent cinematic panorama. Standing before such grandeur, all things seem small in the face of nature's eternal creative power. The massive gneiss monolith known as Chimney Rock in North Carolina is approximately 535 million years old and rises 315 feet straight into the air like a gigantic chimney. This ancient geological formation emerges dramatically from the surrounding landscape. Its bare rock faces, sculpted by wind and rain over countless ages, have created a unique stone pillar that stands prominently against the sky. A deep fracture within the rugged terrain of Hickory Nut Gorge cuts across the base of the rock column. This dramatic geological depression traps air currents and creates distinctive microclimates. The pressure generated by the narrow rock walls forms isolated pockets of moisture that continuously sustain a vast vascular plant community of more than 550 species. Among the precarious rock crevices, the extremely rare white iris, threatened with extinction worldwide, quietly takes root and survives. Drawing moisture from rocky mist, it blooms resiliently upon some of the most barren granite cliffs. This unusual plant community exists in isolation, hidden among the massive rock formations. The sheer cliffs function like a fortress in the sky, completely isolating the core region from the world below. Late afternoon sunlight scorches the surface of the Gray Gneiss Formation, casting long, dramatic shadows across the valley. The power of ancient geological forces reigns supreme, preserving the wonder's rugged and untamed character. Shenandoah Valley is a fertile ecological wonder situated between the Blue Ridge Mountains and the Allegheny Mountains in Virginia. This ancient sandstone formation has created natural walls that surround the entire basin. Geological faults dating back hundreds of millions of years have left behind a constricted valley landscape marked by the great scars of time. The surface appears tranquil, yet beneath it lies a magnificent network of underground limestone caves. The gentle Shenandoah River divides the land, continuously supplying abundant nutrients that sustain more than 1,000 species of wild plants. The ancient oak forest ecosystem grows densely here, supporting one of the highest concentrations of American black bears and white-tailed deer in the eastern United States. When darkness settles over the basin, moisture from icy streams rises and intertwines with the canopies of ancient trees, forming a dense layer of mist. The valley's characteristic climate traps air currents between the two mountain walls, channeling winds along the river. At this time, the entire landscape sinks into a primitive and profound silence. During autumn, the entire valley erupts into a magnificent display of romantic red and golden colors, creating a natural landscape rivaled by few places on Earth. Viewed from the mountain peaks, the ancient forest appears like a blazing stage of light, stretching endlessly to the horizon. The powerful vitality of the ecosystem completely dominates this land. Relentless windstorms sweeping in from the west are the first force that shaped Spruce Knob, the highest peak in West Virginia, rising to 4,862 feet. The harsh, whistling winds force the spruce trees here to grow in only a single direction. This phenomenon transforms the entire old-growth forest into a collection of natural green sails leaning into the storms. The natural environment bears a climate remarkably similar to that of northern Canada, entirely different from the rest of the state. The bone-chilling cold envelops the exposed rock formations, creating a habitat under intense evolutionary pressure. Every living organism on the mountaintop must adapt in order to survive these harsh conditions. Beneath the distorted tree canopies, dense wild moss intertwines with heavily fruiting wild blueberry bushes. This ground cover forms a perfect buffer ecosystem, sheltering the extremely rare Cheat Mountain salamander. This endemic amphibian quietly hunts and survives in isolation, existing nowhere else. Primal darkness immediately engulfs the mountain after sunset, because the area is completely isolated from urban light pollution. Spruce Knob becomes a premier astronomical observation site, where the Milky Way reveals some of its clearest bands of light on the eastern coast of the United States. Millions of stars blazing across the silent sky create a surreal dimension of beauty. Seneca Rocks rises dramatically in West Virginia as a gigantic exposed rock wall reaching nearly 984 feet in height. This natural wonder possesses a one-of-a-kind geological structure, displaying a sharp, fin-shaped rock formation that slices straight into the sky. The ancient desert sandstone formation, once buried beneath a deep sea, was thrust further upward to a near 90-degree angle by powerful movements of the Earth's crust. Its exceptional ruggedness has made this landmark the only mountain on the eastern coast of the United States where reaching the South Peak requires professional rope climbing techniques. The terrain of ultra-hard quartzite cliffs, exposed to sun and wind, has unintentionally created an extremely harsh crevice ecosystem with a uniquely isolated biological character. Taking advantage of these treacherous cracks, the peregrine falcon, renowned as one of the fastest animals on Earth, has turned the cliff face into a fortified stronghold for nesting and raising its young. Its hunting instincts work in harmony with rising thermal currents from the valley below, creating dramatic aerial glides across the vast sky. At the base of the towering cliff, the Potomac River flows peacefully, continuously supplying water that nourishes old-growth forests filled with distinctive wild ginger flowers. This area is also an ideal hunting territory for wild eagles. The contrast between the rugged rock formations and the gentle river flow creates a vibrant ecological landscape. Dolly Sods Wilderness in West Virginia defies conventional ecological rules, with a barren, rocky plateau rising above 3,937 feet. This wind-swept plain completely isolates a wetland and tundra ecosystem more typical of subarctic Canada. The fractured sandstone terrain lies exposed beneath the open sky, continuously subjected to some of the most extreme weather conditions in the region. The relentless force of powerful westerly windstorms has shaped a population of red spruce trees into distinctive flag trees. Their branches and foliage have been sculpted by the wind, allowing growth only toward the east, like green sails enduring adversity. These harsh winds force the vegetation to alter its very structure in order to survive. Ancient sphagnum mosses intertwine with wild blueberry bushes, biwab, and carnivorous sundew plants, creating an exceptionally harsh wetland ecosystem. The combination of waterlogged organic soils and exposed sandstone formations produces a nutrient-poor habitat. Every living organism here possesses extraordinary survival adaptations. This rocky plateau is completely free from urban light pollution, making it one of the finest locations on the eastern coast of the United States for viewing the Milky Way. The silent, pristine sky reveals millions of brilliant stars above the towering cliffs. Wilderness dominates the landscape, leaving behind a rugged and distinctive geological signature. Ohiopyle State Park guards the southern gateway to the Laurel Highlands of Pennsylvania with a rugged and dramatic geological landscape. A sharp bend in the Youghiogheny River dominates the terrain, as powerful waters surge relentlessly through massive rock formations. The river twists through boulder-filled rapids, creating a dynamic hydrological battlefield that has remained active for centuries. The force of these fast-moving currents has transformed the area into one of the premier whitewater rafting destinations in the eastern United States. Massive fractured sandstone blocks scattered throughout the river act as natural obstacles, churning the water into swirling currents and fields of white foam. Rafters must maintain constant control of their paddles to preserve balance against the river's power. A network of waterfalls cascades across broad rock shelves, releasing a constant veil of mist that drifts over nearby trails. The persistent moisture encourages dense growth of ancient oak and white pine forests whose roots penetrate deep into the rugged ground. A thriving network of life continues to flourish while masking nearly all traces of urban development. Trails running along the canyon force visitors to cross beneath overhanging cliffs and traverse narrow sections near steep drop-offs. With few artificial barriers, the uneven sandstone surface demands constant attention and careful footing. The primordial forces of geological change continue to dominate this landscape, preserving its rugged and untamed character. Mount Mitchell towers like an isolated sky island, possessing one of the harshest climates in the United States, where temperatures have reached a record low of -34.6 degrees Fahrenheit. This sandstone massif is constantly battered by violent windstorms sweeping across its steep summit. The rugged terrain has transformed the mountain into a rough, natural fortress standing alone in the skies of North Carolina. A highly acidic fog with an acidity comparable to vinegar blankets the area year-round, forcing the ecosystem to evolve along a completely different path. From the rocky cliffs, contaminated water continuously seeps out, yet it sustains a strange community of living organisms. Every living thing here must adapt itself to survive these harsh conditions. Beneath the dark forest canopy, tiny moss spiders no larger than lentils share their habitat with dwarf salamanders as small as toothpicks that climb tree trunks to hunt after nightfall. While North American flying squirrels sustain themselves through root-associated fungi, this mysterious biological activity unfolds quietly, hidden from the sunlight. This core region is also the oldest state nature reserve in the eastern United States. It serves as a domain for more than 280 unique species of moss, which cling to and blanket decaying ancient trees. This rough layer of vegetation envelops the mountain peak, creating a truly one-of-a-kind ecological wonder. Grandfather Mountain rises prominently in North Carolina as a remarkable UNESCO-recognized biosphere reserve. This mountain possesses a unique geological structure that compresses 16 different ecosystems into a relatively small area. Steep cliffs abruptly surround the core region, creating dramatic layers of habitats stacked upon one another. This land has become a strictly protected sanctuary, providing refuge for 73 rare species. The rugged terrain and climate variation with elevation have isolated the biological communities found here. That isolation has transformed the rough mountain slopes into a unique refuge for survival, driving powerful evolutionary processes. The most notable inhabitant of this web of life is the Yonah-Lassie salamander, distinguished by its brick red back and found in very few places on Earth. In addition, the ancient cliff ecosystem, dating back as much as 300 million years, provides an ideal habitat for the Virginia big-eared bat, known for its exceptional echolocation abilities. Beneath the dark forest canopy, the rare North American flying squirrel quietly sustains its population through the centuries. When cold winds arrive, the towering rock peaks immediately become migration stopovers for thousands of hawks passing through each autumn. This constant movement creates a magnificent and untamed ecological landscape. Whitewater Falls in North Carolina stretches for more than 787 feet, holding the record as the highest cascading waterfall east of the Rocky Mountains. Straddling the border between North and South Carolina, this massive body of water tears through the landscape in a steep, near vertical plunge. The powerful flow continuously crashes against and erodes ancient sandstone cliffs. The tremendous force of water descending over the sheer rock face creates a mist-covered oasis that persists year-round. The dense humidity isolates the basin, forming a unique and secluded forest ecosystem. This constantly wet environment becomes an ideal refuge for ancient ferns and wild salamanders. The combination of the violent water flow and the narrow, treacherous gorge creates a constricted slot canyon landscape. Water vapor becomes trapped between the towering cliffs, rising continuously as streams of white mist. The rugged geology preserves the entire area in a state of pristine and mysterious beauty. This wild environment remains virtually untouched by human influence. When sunlight cuts through the rocky gaps, water droplets suddenly sparkle brilliantly before dissolving into the gray mist. The immense mechanical power of the waterfall dominates the scene completely, revealing a raw and cinematic view of nature. Amicalola Falls in Georgia is one of the 7 natural wonders of the state, featuring an impressive vertical drop of water. This natural wonder is distinguished by its unique multi-tiered horsetail waterfall structure, cutting across steep mountain slopes. The waterfall creates a habitat saturated with moisture, shaping a dense forest ecosystem that thrives with remarkable vigor. Its most distinctive feature is that the water does not fall freely, but instead clings tightly to and rushes down the ancient granite cliff face. The hard rock has been continuously eroded by the flow over millions of years, creating bright white ribbons of foam winding around the mountainside. The mechanical force of the powerful water constantly strikes rocky ledges, releasing dense mist throughout the year. Along the streambed, fallen logs and rock platforms are naturally arranged, creating pools of slower-moving water. This constricted stream terrain serves as a spawning ground and natural nursery for rare native trout. The network of life moves continuously beneath the icy waters, hidden behind wild fruit-bearing shrubs. At the base of the waterfall, endemic plants such as golden barley flowers and large trilliums can be found. They take advantage of the brief period before the dense forest canopy closes overhead to produce a spectacular bloom of wildflowers, transforming the forest floor into a shifting tapestry of color. Sunlight filtering through the leaves ignites the colors of the wildflowers, filling the entire landscape with vivid beauty. Canaan Valley in West Virginia opens like a gigantic geological basin, enclosing a unique 20,000-year-old peat bog at the heart of the Appalachian Mountains. Mountain walls rising approximately 984 feet surround the area, completely isolating the world within the deep basin. This enclosure creates a dramatic geographical boundary, separating the land from the outside world. Hidden within this rugged landscape, the phenomenon known as a cold air trap operates like an invisible force. The basin captures frigid air and locks it in place, causing temperatures inside to remain unusually lower than those outside. This natural refrigerator continuously suppresses warmth, creating immense ecological pressure on all forms of life. This natural refrigerator has effectively frozen time, preserving an Arctic-style wetland and red spruce forest ecosystem that dates back to the Ice Age. Ancient trees and mosses continue to grow quietly, much as they did thousands of years ago. Entering this landscape feels like stepping directly into an untouched chapter of Earth's history. The ancient basin functions as a resilient biological archive, resisting the changes brought by the modern climate. Dense moss carpets and dark red spruce trunks intertwine to create a deeply shaded environment. The region's unique geological forces continue to dominate, preserving its rugged, primitive, and tranquil character. New River Gorge National Park in West Virginia embraces the 320-million-year-old New River, one of the 3 oldest rivers on Earth. Older than the Appalachian Mountains themselves, this unusual river flows from south to north, defying expectations. This geological anomaly has transformed the deep gorge into a unique migration corridor that supports the rare giant hellbender salamander. The extremely hard Nuttall sandstone cliffs have made this area one of the premier rock climbing destinations on the eastern coast of the United States. These ancient vertical rock formations challenge climbers with sharp and treacherous cracks. Millions of years of geological forces have shaped a natural fortress that shelters an endemic biological network quietly thriving within the valley. Spanning the vast void above is a colossal steel arch bridge standing 876 feet high, an iconic engineering masterpiece dominating the gorge. This spectacular location hosts the annual Base Jumping Festival, where participants leap from the bridge in breathtaking displays of daring. These free falls slice through the air, creating a dramatic contrast between human engineering and untamed nature. At the bottom of the gorge, the powerful river continues to erode the sandstone formations, preserving the area's wild character. When mist settles heavily over the northward flowing river, the entire landscape sinks into a rugged silence. The power of time reigns supreme here, turning the heart of the national park into a living chapter of Earth's history. Blackwater Falls in West Virginia plunges 62 feet into a 492-foot deep sandstone gorge. Distinguished by its unusual dark amber-colored water, this tea-like brown flow carves through the landscape with tremendous mechanical force. The constant impacts release waves of bone-chilling moisture that envelop the entire canyon. This mysterious black water color results from tannic acid released by decaying conifer needles from upstream red spruce and eastern hemlock forests. The river's uniquely acidic waters continuously stain the ancient sandstone formations below. This natural chemical process transforms the basin into an exceptionally harsh ecological environment. The acidic water has nurtured a primitive moss-covered ecosystem that remains cool throughout the year. Dense carpets of moss cling tightly to the steep rock walls, absorbing nutrients from this isolated environment to sustain their growth. This ancient web of life continues its quiet existence beneath the dark conifer canopy. The core region becomes a spectacular landscape of vibrant colors during autumn, before freezing almost entirely in winter. A distinctive attraction here is the longest magic carpet ski lift on the eastern coast of the United States, operating amid snow-covered scenery. The rugged geology and untamed wilderness completely dominate this isolated landscape. Hickory Nut Falls in North Carolina features a silver ribbon of water plunging 404 feet straight into a deep gorge, ranking among the tallest free-falling waterfalls in the eastern United States. Its powerful descent tears through the air, generating tremendous mechanical impacts. The massive volume of water pours down relentlessly, eroding ancient granite cliffs over time. The cold air generated by the waterfall continuously spreads outward, forcing dense moisture-laden mist to cling tightly to the surrounding vertical rock crevices. This compressed atmospheric environment transforms the rock walls surrounding the waterfall into an isolated habitat. The constantly saturated conditions encourage mosses and wild ferns to flourish in seclusion. The hunting grounds of wild salamanders lie beneath ancient sandstone plunge pools carved by the concentrated flow of water. The biological network at the base of the waterfall remains highly active, concealing the quiet struggles for survival of rare birds and amphibians. Every living organism here possesses an exceptional ability to adapt to the powerful current. The steep and rugged gorge forms a natural fortress that isolates the entire area from the outside world. Its primitive wilderness has been preserved almost untouched, resisting the advance of human activity. The mechanical force of the waterfall dominates completely, leaving behind a rugged geological signature deep within the valley. Grayson Highlands State Park in Virginia reveals a vast green highland meadow rising above 4,921 feet, adjacent to the massive Mount Rogers. The most distinctive feature of this location is the free-roaming population of resilient wild ponies, four-legged wanderers that endure the region's harsh, snow-covered winters. They graze on grass and forage through snow among fractured granite outcrops. Their rugged survival unfolds across a unique, dwarf, tundra-like vegetation zone, shaped by relentless icy winds. Ancient granite formations rise abruptly from the landscape, standing exposed and gray beneath the pressure of extreme weather. The highland environment resembles an ecological arena, forcing all living things to adapt in order to survive. Beyond the windswept summits, steep rocky slopes descend into deep valleys that conceal endemic red spruce forest ecosystems. Dense moss carpets, saturated with mountain moisture, function like a vast living root system, continuously supporting a hidden network of wildlife. Life persists stubbornly in the nutrient-poor soil. This rugged core region is crossed by the historic Appalachian Trail, offering panoramic views of the quiet plains below. The surrounding cliffs act as a natural fortress, preserving the area's wild character from the influence of the modern world. Ancient geological forces dominate the landscape, leaving behind a truly distinctive geological legacy. Mount Rogers in Virginia marks the highest point in the state at an elevation of 5,728 feet, hidden within the ancient Blue Ridge Mountains. Unlike many windswept peaks, the summit of this geological formation is completely enclosed by a dense, dark forest of red spruce and Fraser fir. This pristine location remains entirely isolated, offering no broad panoramic views of the surrounding landscape. This subarctic plant community transforms the mountain's core into a natural refrigerator, remaining cool throughout the year. Beneath the dark conifer canopy, networks of moisture and frost create extremely humid conditions that sustain rare dwarf salamanders. Life continues quietly within this confined and tranquil geological environment. The mountain surface contains rugged rhyolite volcanic rock layers, remnants of ancient volcanic activity that fractured more than 760 million years ago. This is one of the few locations in Virginia preserving visible traces associated with the harsh Proterozoic glacial era. Sandstone and granite formations, weathered by time, remain exposed while enduring the forces of geological change. This rugged landscape is surrounded by the legendary Appalachian Trail, forming a boundary between wilderness and the modern world. When powerful westerly winds sweep across the cliffs, the entire mountain region becomes filled with a cold and formidable atmosphere. The forces of nature reign supreme here, preserving an isolated and dramatic chapter of geological history. Blood Mountain rises to an elevation of 4,459 feet, standing as one of the most rugged strongholds of the Blue Ridge Mountains in Georgia. Rather than gentle meadows, its summit is dominated by a chaotic field of gray granite boulders, fractured by relentless weathering. Dense fog frequently blankets the peak, compressing the landscape into an atmosphere of isolation and mystery. The steep terrain challenges every step with jagged sandstone ledges and narrow dirt trails winding along exposed drop-offs. Massive fallen rocks create a maze-like landscape of difficult passages that restrict movement for hikers. The mountain's geological forces reveal a raw, rugged environment shaped by continuous mechanical weathering. Hikers traveling the Appalachian Trail must pass a historic stone shelter built in 1934. This sturdy structure stands alone amid the mountain winds, serving as a symbol of endurance through decades of storms and harsh winters. Beneath it, tangled roots spread across the ground, making easy travel nearly impossible. The wilderness core of the mountain maintains a cold and solitary character, with dense thickets of mountain rhododendron. Growing along exposed rock faces, low trees twist into unusual shapes under the pressure of recurring extreme weather. The primordial power of nature surrounds the landscape, isolating this summit from the calmer world below. A gigantic spiderweb-like structure of water spread across a 69-foot-high schist cliff is the unique signature of Crabtree Falls in North Carolina. Rather than plunging freely, the water clings tightly and rushes across the wild green moss covering the Blue Ridge Mountains. The constant mechanical impact breaks the flow into thousands of brilliant white droplets that surge relentlessly downward. The rugged schist cliff acts as a natural screen, forcing the waterfall to spread to its maximum width as it descends. While much of the mechanical force is dissipated, dense moisture-laden mist erupts and traps the narrow basin within a veil of fog throughout the year. This extreme humidity transforms the base of the waterfall into an isolated ecological enclave. The rough gray tones of the ancient sandstone beneath the waterfall are hidden by dense clusters of wild rhododendrons. This distinctive vegetation absorbs moisture from the mist-covered rocks and blooms in abundance, creating a dramatic boundary of color within the old-growth forest. Life continues quietly beneath the canopy of ancient oak trees. The rugged barriers of the gorge establish a firm boundary that preserves the pristine character of the landscape. Tiny droplets of water capture the sunlight and flash with metallic brilliance before plunging into the deep stream below. Untamed wilderness reigns completely here, erasing nearly every trace of the modern world. Natural Bridge in Virginia features a colossal monolithic limestone arch rising 217 feet high, representing one of the oldest geological wonders in the United States. This massive arch was once the ceiling of an ancient underground cave before a dramatic geological collapse exposed it to the surface. A deep gorge immediately formed, revealing towering vertical rock walls. Cedar Creek continues to erode the base of the arch, steadily carving deeper into the canyon with the persistent force of flowing water. The continuous mechanical action within this damp limestone gorge has created an isolated microclimate that remains cool throughout the year. The confined structure traps moisture, sustaining a distinctive ecological habitat. The steep rock walls serve as an anchoring point for ancient cedar trees more than 1,000 years old. Their rugged roots penetrate deep into barren cracks, drawing nutrients from moisture trapped within the stone and surviving in isolation from the surrounding forest. This ancient web of life continues quietly, clinging to the gray limestone surfaces. Late afternoon sunlight scorches the face of the stone arch, casting long and dramatic shadows across the deep valley. The vertical walls act as a natural fortress, preserving the pristine character of the landmark from external change. The power of ancient geological forces reigns supreme, leaving behind a rugged and untamed geological masterpiece. Lost World Caverns in West Virginia opens into a dramatic geological chamber located more than 118 feet beneath the surface. This million-year-old limestone cave system exists far removed from the modern world and has been recognized as a national natural landmark. A steep passage descends directly into near-total darkness, where ancient geological formations preserve a remarkable record of natural history. The underground landscape expands into an immense main chamber, filled with some of the largest calcite formations in the United States. Suspended from the cavern ceiling is the Snowy Chandelier, a massive stalactite weighing approximately 30 tons. Nearby, the 39-foot-tall Goliath column rises from the cave floor like a monumental support pillar beneath the vast chamber. One of the most unusual features is the War Club Formation, an 8.5-meter tall stone tower that has remained standing for centuries. This remarkable mineral structure once became associated with a peculiar Guinness World Record when an individual remained seated atop it for nearly 16 consecutive days. Human presence has done little to alter the formation, instead emphasizing the isolation of the underground world. The entire cavern maintains a constant temperature of 51.8 degrees Fahrenheit throughout the year, unaffected by external weather conditions. This isolated microclimate has preserved fossils of prehistoric bears and other ancient creatures. The primordial forces of nature continue to dominate this subterranean stone realm, keeping it separated from the world above. Linville Gorge Wilderness in North Carolina dominates the eastern United States as the region's deepest and steepest gorge, often described as a miniature Grand Canyon. Towering cliffs of ultra-hard quartzite plunge dramatically into the valley, reaching depths of more than 1,969 feet. This rugged and constricted terrain tears through the landscape, creating a basin completely isolated from the outside world. This untamable natural barrier has preserved ancient old-growth forests from the devastating impacts of large-scale logging. Centuries-old pine trees still stand firmly rooted, casting long, wild shadows across the rough, gray sandstone terrain. Geological forces have protected an ancient chapter of biological history with virtually no traces of human influence. This pristine location has become a unique botanical sanctuary, home to exceptionally rare endemic species. It is the only place on Earth where the rare Linville heather grows, anchoring its roots deep into the rugged rock formations. The web of life is further enriched by populations of wild carnivorous plants thriving quietly along steep rocky crevices. Far below, the powerful Linville River continues to erode ancient geological formations, releasing dense moisture that remains trapped within the gorge throughout the year. Late afternoon sunlight burns across the lonely rock summits, casting sharp shadows into the silent valley before darkness settles over the landscape. The forces of geological creation reign supreme here, leaving behind a rugged and unforgettable natural legacy. Cloudland Canyon cuts deeply into the western slope of Lookout Mountain in Georgia, revealing a dramatic geological trench more than 984 feet deep. This system of towering vertical sandstone cliffs is the result of millions of years of continuous erosion by powerful streams. The constricted canyon floor forms a rugged basin that challenges the limits of ordinary ecosystems. The mechanical convergence of Daniel Creek and Bear Creek within the depths of the gorge creates a striking geographical feature. The forceful flow carves through rough gray sandstone formations, creating a series of waterfalls that plunge freely toward the canyon floor. This relentless mechanical energy releases waves of cold moisture that envelop the entire landscape. The damp canyon provides ideal conditions for ancient hemlock trees that are hundreds of years old, along with dense carpets of moss. Their rugged root systems cling tightly to the surfaces of ultra-hard quartzite cliffs, drawing nutrients from mist and stone to thrive in isolation. A primitive network of life moves quietly beneath the canopy of steep, old-growth forests. The sheer cliffs function as a formidable fortress wall, isolating this wild core from every trace of the modern world. Exposed geological layers reveal the rugged folds and fractures of the Earth's crust, preserving evidence of the uplift that formed the ancient Appalachian continental mass. The entire landscape stands unchanged in its original wilderness. Little River Canyon in Alabama contains a unique system of cliffside caves that once served as strategic refuge fortresses for the indigenous Cherokee people. This trench, more than 656 feet deep, functioned as a formidable natural defensive boundary against outside incursions. Its rugged terrain isolated entire networks of ancient human activity. Along the rough sandstone ledges, archaeologists have discovered traces of an ancient transcontinental trade route. These difficult rock-cut pathways connected Gulf Coast tribes with the Tennessee Valley. Preserving evidence of thousands of years of human migration. human history is etched directly into the exposed vertical cliff faces. Geologically, the canyon reveals one of the region's finest exposed tectonic cross-sections, displaying sedimentary layers accumulated since the Carboniferous period. Persistent water erosion has stripped away surface soils, exposing compressed fossils of ancient plant life. Hundreds of millions of years of Earth's history lie exposed within the basin. This pristine location serves as an isolated natural laboratory where scientists study the evolution of endemic aquatic ecosystems. The force of water flowing across the summit of Lookout Mountain continuously shapes biological structures, compelling species to adapt in order to survive. The landscape remains unchanged, preserving its singular and untamed character. Chiaja Peak proudly holds the position of the highest point in the state of Alabama, standing at an elevation of 2,408 feet above sea level. Because the surrounding terrain drops away abruptly into relatively flat landscapes, this geological formation rises prominently like an isolated sky island, creating a powerful visual illusion. Its towering cliffs provide remarkable opportunities to view seas of clouds drifting below the observer's feet. Located at the summit is the sturdy Bunker Tower, a structure that defies the effects of time and erosion. The entire tower was handcrafted from ultra-hard Chiaja quartz sandstone, a material formed from ancient seabed deposits compressed over millions of years. This rugged stone architecture leaves a lasting impression of strength and permanence. The harsh environment becomes evident as relentless westerly winds sweep across the exposed mountainsides. Continuous mechanical pressure from nature has forced the local ecosystem to evolve in unusual ways to survive. The entire vegetation community has adapted its biological structure, clinging tightly to the barren sandstone foundation. The constant impact of powerful winds has sculpted ancient forests into bizarre twisted forms resembling gigantic bonsai creations of nature. Networks of gnarled trunks and rough branches stand firmly anchored in the rocky terrain, breaking the silence atop the summit. The forces of geological formation and time reign completely, preserving the wilderness in its original state. Pine Creek Gorge proudly holds the title of the Grand Canyon of Pennsylvania, standing as a massive national natural landmark stretching for 47 miles. This dramatic geological trench cuts through the Allegheny Plateau to a record depth of approximately 1,444 feet. The decisive carving of the landscape has exposed towering vertical cliffs that challenge the limits of ordinary ecosystems. Its most distinctive feature lies in its dramatic reverse flow formation history dating back 20,000 years to the Ice Age. At that time, massive glaciers advanced and blocked the original river system. Mechanical pressure from meltwater forced the flow to abruptly reverse direction, unleashing powerful erosive forces that carved through the solid plateau. This decisive hydrological reversal created the steep and rugged basin visible today. However, this geological landmark was transformed into a barren wilderness during the 19th century due to extensive logging by humans. The removal of vegetation pushed the entire canyon ecosystem toward ecological collapse, exposing vast expanses of gray sandstone. After overcoming that dark chapter, this location witnessed a remarkable biological recovery. It has re-established a rich mesic oak hickory forest ecosystem firmly rooted along barren sandstone ledges. Primitive life continues to thrive quietly along the creek banks, preserving the untouched wilderness character of the landscape from the modern world. Ricketts Glen State Park in Pennsylvania contains a system of steep geological ravines carved by the two branches of Kitchen Creek. The presence of 22 waterfalls of varying sizes cascading through the deep gorge creates a dramatic landscape feature. Massive volumes of water plunge directly into the basins below, tearing through the landscape with relentless mechanical force. The powerful flow continuously erodes ancient shale and sandstone layers, releasing waterfalls that drop freely from heights of up to 95 feet. The tremendous impact shatters the falling water into blankets of white foam, surrounding the cliff bases with dense moisture. The mechanical roar echoes against exposed rock walls, breaking the silence of the gorge. This mist-filled environment creates a completely isolated microclimate that sustains a priceless old-growth forest. Populations of hemlock and oak trees more than 500 years old stand firmly rooted, casting long, wild shadows across rugged stone-cut trails. A primitive network of life extends deep into the rocky terrain, thriving in isolation. The towering vertical cliffs function as a formidable fortress wall, isolating the wild core from every trace of the modern world. Exposed geological strata reveal rugged folds and fractures, preserving evidence of millions of years of persistent water erosion. The entire gorge remains untouched in its wilderness state, preserving a unique chapter of geological history. A magnificent geological cut splits the ancient Blue Ridge Mountains in two, forming the Delaware Water Gap along the border between Pennsylvania and New Jersey. The formation of this gorge tells a story of reversed hydrology, as the Delaware River stubbornly maintained its original course, continuously eroding a mountain range that was simultaneously rising. This dramatic break reveals towering cliffs rising more than 1,181 feet above the surrounding landscape. Unlike a constricted basin, the gorge here widens to accommodate a network of calm river valleys interspersed with turbulent rapids. Over hundreds of millions of years, relentless mechanical erosion stripped away softer sedimentary layers, exposing sheer walls of hard gray quartzite. The rugged terrain stands exposed, marking a formidable natural boundary. This varied landscape creates a complex ecological mosaic of barren mountain slopes and fertile wetlands. Unique broadleaf forests grow alongside temperate vegetation lining the water's edge, providing habitat for the rare bald eagle to nest. A diverse network of life quietly thrives within the isolated boundaries of the watershed. The exposed sandstone and shale cliffs function like an open geological textbook, revealing the full structure of the Appalachian continental folds. Movements within the Earth's crust left behind rugged fractures that continue to resist the forces of water erosion. The entire landscape remains dominant and imposing, preserving its rugged and pristine character. Mount Washington holds the distinction of being the highest peak in the northeastern United States, rising to an elevation of 6,289 feet in the state of New Hampshire. This massive granite formation towers above the ancient White Mountains, creating a dramatic and exposed landscape. Its high elevation isolation generates a wind-swept environment that challenges the ecological balance found in the calmer valleys below. This summit serves as the meeting point of three major continental storm tracks, creating one of the most hazardous climates on Earth. The interaction of powerful air masses once drove wind speeds here to a world record 231 miles per hour. The entire summit remains trapped in severe frost, ice, and snow for much of the year. Extreme weather conditions transform the steep summit region into a barren Arctic tundra environment. Plant life has adapted in unusual ways, forming dense communities of stunted and twisted shrubs shaped by relentless winds. A primitive network of life clings tightly to the gray granite surface, drawing sustenance from moisture and frost. The exposed vertical cliffs function like a natural fortress, preserving a rugged and distinctive geological character. From the precarious rocky ledges, visitors are rewarded with surreal panoramic views, extending across the boundaries of 5 neighboring states and the vast Atlantic Ocean. The forces of time and extreme nature reign completely, preserving the isolation of this wild landscape. Mount LeConte rises from the heart of Great Smoky Mountains National Park in Tennessee at an elevation of 6,594 feet. This dark sandstone massif features steep cliffs exposed to immense rainfall and frost throughout the year. The constant condensation of mountain clouds creates a damp environment, enveloping the summit in a dense and often oppressive atmosphere. Reaching the summit requires hikers to pass through Alum Cave, a massive rock shelter rich in mineral deposits. The trail winds along the edges of deep ravines, where water seeping from the earth freezes into sharp sheets of ice during colder months. The steep and rugged terrain leaves little room for careless footing. The extreme elevation supports ancient Fraser fir forests filled with the scent of resin. This mist-covered habitat provides refuge for colorful mosses and populations of wild birds adapted to the high mountain environment. A resilient network of life thrives across the barren sandstone soils, remaining isolated from the modern world far below. At the summit stands the rustic LeConte Lodge, a wooden mountain retreat accessible only by trail. All supplies must be transported by pack llamas and mules over many miles of steep forest paths. The primordial forces of nature and time dominate completely, preserving the rugged and untamed character of this remarkable location. Shenandoah National Park is an invaluable ecological treasure in the state of Virginia, renowned for the exceptional biodiversity of the ancient Blue Ridge Mountains. The terrain here has carved abrupt, steep cliffs and deep valleys. Rugged geological formations dating back hundreds of millions of years dominate the towering mountain slopes. This area is home to dense oak-hickory forests and the natural grasslands of big meadows, which support more than 850 plant species and hundreds of vibrant wildflower species. Its wildlife is remarkably abundant, featuring one of the highest densities of American black bears in the United States, along with white-tailed deer and more than 190 species of rare birds. The park's natural beauty reaches a spectacular peak along Skyline Drive, which runs across the colorful mountain ridges. Cool winds lead visitors deeper into pristine, moss-covered waterfalls such as Dark Hollow. Bright sunlight pierces through the thick mist, illuminating the gray tones of ancient sandstone formations. Whenever autumn arrives in the valleys, the entire landscape transforms into romantic shades of red and gold reminiscent of a painting. Viewed from above, the ancient forest appears like a gigantic ribbon of color suspended in the sky. Standing before such grandeur, all things seem small in the face of nature's eternal creative power. McAfee Knob in Virginia dominates the legendary Appalachian Trail, which stretches for more than 2,175 miles, as the most photographed and sought-after location along its route. Its distinctive identity comes from an ancient Tuscarora sandstone slab, projecting dramatically into open air. This massive monolithic rock extends outward like a giant tongue, hanging boldly above the depths of Catawba Valley. This breathtaking geological formation stands at nearly 3,281 feet in elevation, cutting across the canyon landscape to create a surreal 270-degree panoramic view. From the isolated rock ledge, visitors are confronted by rolling clouds drifting across the sky, casting shadows over pine and oak forests and the constricted valley below. Persistent mist contributes to the area's remarkable sense of solitude. This iconic rock formation is an inseparable part of the powerful trio of cliffs known as Virginia's Triple Crown. Its exposed position high above the landscape subjects the mountain slopes to relentless winds and extreme weather conditions. The barren sandstone terrain has created an exceptionally harsh ecological environment. These demanding conditions force the region's endemic biological communities to adapt in order to survive on the rugged rock surfaces. The towering cliffs function like natural fortress walls, isolating the wild core of the landscape from the influence of the modern world. The forces of geology and time reign supreme here, preserving a truly unique chapter of Earth's history. Brasstown Bald holds the distinction of being the highest peak in the state of Georgia, rising to an elevation of 4,783 feet amid the ancient Blue Ridge Mountains. The unique feature of this location is a sturdy stone observation tower built in a native architectural style atop the summit, serving as both an observatory and a watchful eye for viewing the Milky Way with exceptional clarity due to the complete absence of light pollution. This lofty observation platform creates a surreal 360-degree panorama, engulfing visitors with sweeping views that extend across the borders of 4 neighboring states. Beneath the tower, deep valleys unfold dramatically within a vast and awe-inspiring landscape. Geological forces have shaped an open, windswept space that challenges every limit of perspective. This massive mountain is surrounded by a unique temperate forest ecosystem where ancient oak trees and wild rhododendrons grow under demanding conditions. Their rugged root systems penetrate deep into cracks within gray granite, drawing nutrients from mist and stone to survive in complete isolation. A primitive network of life moves quietly through the silent wilderness. The towering cliffs function like a formidable fortress wall, isolating the wild core of the region from every trace of the modern world. Late sunlight scorches the surfaces of solitary rock outcrops, casting long, harsh shadows across the rugged uplands. Primeval tectonic forces reign completely, leaving behind a singular geological landmark. Catskill Falls lies deep within the Catskill Mountains of New York, standing as one of the tallest two-tier waterfalls in the United States with a height of 259 feet. The feature that makes this natural wonder truly unique is the enormous sandstone cave arch located directly behind the upper tier of the falls. This geological structure creates an unusual open space that dramatically cuts through the mountain landscape. A massive volume of water plunges freely from the cave ceiling into the basin below, creating a misty curtain that surrounds an ancient moisture-rich moss ecosystem. Mechanical pressure from the flow continuously erodes the rough gray sandstone at the bottom of the gorge. This wild and magnificent location became an iconic inspiration for the nation's first landscape painting movement. The towering cliffs enclose an isolated microclimate oasis that remains cool throughout the year. This habitat, saturated with dense moisture, provides ideal conditions for ancient conifer forests. A primitive network of life develops quietly within barren rock fractures, sheltering the rare spotted salamander in complete isolation. During winter, the powerful flow freezes completely, transforming into a colossal column of ice suspended in the air. This natural mechanical formation becomes a surreal crystal sculpture, carving a sharp boundary against the exposed cliff face. The power of time reigns absolutely, preserving a unique chapter of geological history. Flume Gorge cuts deep into the base of Liberty Mountain in New Hampshire, revealing a dramatic geological fissure that is 200 million years old. This narrow corridor stretches 787 feet and is tightly confined between two vertical Conway granite walls, rising 89 feet high, with a width of only 10 to 20 feet. This constricted landform creates a rugged passageway that completely isolates the location. The formation of the gorge is the result of a remarkable process of mechanical erosion. The entire fissure was once filled with molten basalt, but because the basalt was softer than the surrounding granite, it was gradually eroded and washed away by glacial meltwater during the Ice Age. This relentless process exposed bare gray geological layers within the gorge. The moist gorge creates a habitat saturated with cool mist throughout the year. This unique environment transforms the rock walls into spectacular hanging gardens covered with ancient ferns, mosses, and wildflowers. A primitive network of life takes root deep within the rugged stone, thriving quietly beneath the canopy of steep, old-growth forests. A system of wooden boardwalks attached to the cliff walls brings visitors face to face with the rushing water that leads directly to the roaring avalanche falls. High above, the unique Sentinel Pine Bridge spans the gorge, constructed from the trunk of a giant ancient pine tree that was toppled by a storm in 1938. The power of time remains ever present throughout the landscape. Breaks Interstate Park stretches across the border of Virginia and Kentucky, immediately overwhelming visitors with a geological scar plunging nearly 1,640 feet deep. This gorge lacks gentle curves and instead appears carved by the hydraulic drill of the Russell Fork River. The entire canyon floor resembles a mechanical battlefield filled with fractured sandstone cliffs and massive fallen rock formations. A peculiar rock formation known as the Towers rises dramatically from the valley, forcing the river into an abrupt and sharp turn. This sudden bend creates a hazardous bottleneck where powerful currents repeatedly crash against ancient bedrock. The space is filled with a dense and dramatic chorus of roaring water and constant pressure. Beneath the brutal Class 5 rapids, sections of the river suddenly disappear into a network of dark underground caves. This unusual hydrological phenomenon limits the survival of many ordinary plant species, leaving only slick black moss clinging tightly to sandstone surfaces. The habitat at the bottom of the gorge remains cold, isolated, and rugged throughout the year. No tranquil plains exist here, only steep dirt trails cutting through wild oak forests. Dense mist rising from the water blankets the landscape during the early morning hours, swallowing the forest canopy and isolating the gorge from the outside world. This location reveals one of nature's most primitive, stark, and untamed faces. Black Balsam Knob rises abruptly from the Blue Ridge Mountains of North Carolina with a strikingly unusual appearance, completely treeless, without a single large tree in sight. The entire 6,211-foot summit of this sandstone formation is covered by rugged grasslands and low shrubs, creating a rare alpine meadow landscape in the heart of the American South. This exposed terrain transforms the summit into a completely unobstructed 360-degree observation point where no forest canopy blocks the view. Powerful winds sweep across fractured rock ridges, carrying the sharp, chill characteristic of high elevation climates. Beneath hikers' feet, the ground is dominated by the gray tones of ancient quartzite rock. This unprotected landscape supports a specialized ecosystem adapted to severe weather conditions. Wild blueberry and blackberry shrubs root firmly within nutrient-poor soils, growing alongside resilient native grasses. Life continues quietly beneath the surface, enduring sudden waves of frost and harsh seasonal conditions. Walking along the extended ridgeline, visitors are surrounded by distant mountain ranges rising above rolling seas of clouds. With no artificial boardwalks defining the route, hikers must confront the rugged and steep terrain directly. The primordial power of nature leaves behind a landscape defined by freedom, simplicity, and wilderness. Cathedral Caverns State Park in Alabama immediately astonishes visitors with a gigantic commercial cave entrance measuring 128 feet wide and 25 feet high. This geological opening leads into a vast underground cathedral recognized as a national natural landmark, completely abandoning the notion of narrow passageways. Deep beneath the surface, towering limestone vaults dominate the landscape, challenging conventional ideas of geological formation. The visual centerpiece of the cavern is the Goliath stalagmite, rising 46 feet high with a record-setting circumference of 243 feet. This immense mineral formation occupies the chamber like a colossal supporting pillar, standing beside a 135-foot-long rock wall resembling a frozen waterfall. Drop by drop, water continues to build these rough stone formations through the centuries. The mysterious Mystery River flows through geological layers that are 350 million years old. Sustaining a 3-acre forest of unusual stalagmites. Within this underground world stands a remarkable stone column 27 feet tall, yet only 3 inches thick. Which has remained upright through numerous historic earthquakes. This extraordinary balance leaves behind one of the cavern's most remarkable natural features. The dense underground environment remains at a constant 59.9 degrees Fahrenheit throughout the year, providing an isolated refuge for wild bat populations. The mystery deepens as the cavern ceiling reveals fossilized, prehistoric shark teeth from an ancient oceanic era. The power of time reigns completely, preserving this extraordinary chapter of natural history. The destructive power of ancient glaciers millions of years ago carved Mount Katahdin, the highest peak in Maine, rising to 5,269 feet. This massive granite formation rises abruptly, marking the challenging endpoint of the famous Appalachian Trail. Bare gray cliffs weathered by time have created a razor-sharp ridge with an extremely rugged geological structure. The closer one gets to Baxter Peak, the more abruptly the climate shifts into a moss-covered tundra environment characteristic of the Arctic. Vast fields of collapsed rock seem to separate the mountain from the world below, creating immense ecological pressure on all living things. The vegetation here must remain low against the rough ground to withstand the relentless windstorms sweeping across the summit. This isolated ecosystem supports rare moth species and lemmings that shelter within narrow rock crevices. Twisted and deformed Krumholtz conifer forests cling tightly to the steep slopes, forming rough green barriers that slow the flow of water. This wild biological network operates quietly beneath the year-round cold of the northeastern region. The Knife Edge Trail, less than 3.3 feet wide, stretches across deep and intimidating chasms, testing the resilience of those who cross it. When fog descends, the entire granite massif suddenly fades from view, transforming the mountain into a gray phantom suspended in the sky. The raw and primitive landscape dominates the scene, revealing a ruggedly cinematic perspective. Linville Falls, located along the Blue Ridge Parkway in North Carolina, holds the distinction of having the greatest water flow along the northern edge of the Blue Ridge Mountains. Originating near Grandfather Mountain, the Linville River reaches this location and suddenly changes direction, twisting through steep rock layers. Its free fall of 46 feet crashes directly into the gorge below, unleashing tremendous hydrological force. This geological formation bears the scars of a historic flood that occurred between 1895 and 1906. The destructive waters carved through resistant sandstone layers, reshaping the natural course of the river. The rugged basin below remains covered with exposed boulders and rocky debris, preserving evidence of a dramatic episode of natural erosion and change. Surrounding the moist gorge is one of the few remaining stands of ancient hardwood forest that escaped large-scale human logging. This pristine habitat forms a dense green sanctuary that shelters populations of black bears and white-tailed deer. A resilient network of life continues to thrive beneath the towering forest canopy despite the passage of time. Beneath the clear waters churned by perpetual foam, the stream serves as an important spawning ground for 3 native mountain trout species. These fish persistently swim against the current, relying on nutrient-rich pools and eddies to sustain future generations. The primordial force of nature dominates the landscape, preserving its rugged and untamed character. Sliding Rock, located within Pisgah National Forest in North Carolina, showcases a remarkable geological wonder by transforming a massive rock formation into a natural water slide. The centerpiece of this landscape is a huge granite slab measuring 59 feet in length. Its surface has been polished to remarkable smoothness by the waters of Looking Glass Creek through thousands of years of hydrological weathering. The continuous flow generates tremendous water pressure, sending approximately 41,000 liters of water per minute across the slippery rock chute. This powerful hydrological force propels visitors at high speed before depositing them into a natural plunge pool more than 7 feet deep at the base. Ruby Falls lies deep within the Chattahoochee National Forest in Georgia, and immediately astonishes visitors with its exceptionally rare twin waterfall formation. This location marks the point where two separate streams, Curtis Creek and York Creek, plunge from different elevations before converging at the base of the gorge. This hydrological display creates a dramatic spectacle of rushing water. Curtis Creek descends in a free fall of 151 feet, while York Creek drops from a lower height of 49 feet. The simultaneous impact of these two streams releases enormous quantities of mist, enveloping the entire sandstone gorge in dense moisture. The relentless force of the water sculpts the rocky basin below and generates a constant thunderous roar. This perpetual spray creates a humid subtropical habitat filled with cool moisture throughout the year. The environment transforms gray rock walls into lush hanging gardens covered with ancient ferns and wildflowers. A primitive network of life takes root deep within the rugged stone, thriving quietly beneath the canopy of old-growth forests. A paved trail running alongside the stream brings visitors face to face with the powerful flow. From wooden observation platforms built near the edge of the gorge, visitors witness the foaming confluence of the streams as they continue toward Lake Unicoi. The primordial force of nature dominates the landscape, preserving a unique geological landmark. Dragon's Tooth, located along the Appalachian Trail in Virginia, astonishes visitors with an ancient quartzite formation more than 400 million years old. This monolithic structure rises 36 feet into the sky, resembling the cracked fang of a gigantic beast. Its rugged setting immediately creates a striking visual landmark that dominates the entire mountaintop. Reaching the summit of this steep rock formation requires hikers to use both hands and feet to climb through narrow and challenging gaps. Exposed rock ledges and sharp surfaces test balance and endurance while placing considerable physical demands on every step. The constricted terrain removes any sense of ease associated with an ordinary hike. Ecologically, the mountain has been designated a special biological area to protect the extremely rare pirate bush. This unusual parasitic shrub survives only within fragile and nutrient-poor habitats scattered across barren quartzite ledges. A resilient network of life persists here despite severe environmental conditions. From the highest point atop the Stone Fang, visitors are rewarded with sweeping views across the broad valley below. Layers of mist-covered mountains stretch across the horizon, revealing a vast yet tranquil wilderness. The forces of geological formation and time continue to dominate this landscape, preserving a truly distinctive natural landmark. Cascade Falls in Virginia does not hide from view, but instead hurls a massive stream of water from a height of 69 feet directly into a limestone basin below. Its most distinctive feature is a curved rock wall, resembling an ancient oceanic amphitheater that surrounds the waterfall. The force of the direct plunge continuously churns the water beneath, filling the basin with white foam throughout the year. The weight of the falling water along the curved cliff generates powerful air currents that constantly scatter mist into the surrounding area. This hydrological phenomenon keeps the basin in a state of perpetual coolness and motion, isolating it from the warmer forest environment nearby. The rock beneath has been polished smooth by centuries of erosion, creating a slippery surface. The dense spray continuously nourishes a community of wild plants rooted within sandstone crevices. Tree ferns and dark mosses spread across the rock face, replacing much of its gray surface with deep green vegetation. Life persists in this environment beneath the canopy of ancient hardwood trees that have endured for generations. The route to the waterfall follows a series of uneven natural stone steps that require careful footing. At the end of the trail, the roar of the falls overwhelms the senses, drowning out nearly every other sound. This geological formation delivers a rugged and unforgettable experience shaped by the raw force of nature. Monongahela National Forest in West Virginia spans more than 914,000 acres and contains one of the highest levels of biodiversity in the eastern United States. Its terrain varies dramatically, encompassing both Spruce Knob, the state's highest peak, and the 20,000-year-old peatlands of Canaan Valley. This vast geological landscape creates a complex and untamed ecological mosaic. This wilderness functions as an ancient refuge, preserving the largest southern population of Canadian-style red spruce forests. The isolation of these habitats has transformed rugged terrain into a sanctuary for the extremely rare Cheat Mountain salamander. A resilient network of life continues to endure despite recurring episodes of severe weather. Beneath the canopy of ancient forests, the threatened northern flying squirrel quietly carries out its existence. The remote core of the forest minimizes signs of human development, maintaining the solitude and cool atmosphere characteristic of a landscape that remains largely unchanged. Natural forces continue to shape every aspect of this ecological system. The forest also serves as the headwaters for 12 major rivers that provide clean, fresh water throughout the Mid-Atlantic region. Within mist-covered valleys, native trout populations thrive alongside black bears and white-tailed deer. This immense natural landscape preserves a powerful and isolated chapter of geological and ecological history. Gulf Haggis lies deep within one of the wildest sections of the Appalachian Trail corridor in Maine and is often described as the Grand Canyon of the East. Its steep slate walls plunge to depths of nearly 394 feet, slicing through ancient bedrock. This dramatic landscape reveals a geological scar carved by powerful meltwaters that flowed through the region hundreds of millions of years ago. The rugged environment reaches its peak, where floodwaters rush forcefully through the gorge, relentlessly eroding the rough stone beneath. Intense hydraulic pressure has sculpted numerous circular potholes and plunge pools along the riverbed. The scene is dominated by churning whitewater and swirling foam that fill the narrow canyon with constant motion and sound. The confined gorge remains remarkably preserved beneath towering stands of ancient eastern white pines. These old-growth trees anchor themselves firmly into the rocky terrain, their dense canopies limiting sunlight from reaching the canyon floor. A cool and humid environment persists throughout the gorge, making access challenging and preserving its wilderness character. This roaring river system serves as an important refuge for the rare Atlantic salmon. The power of the current demands constant adaptation from the wildlife that inhabits these waters. The untamed landscape continues to dominate the region, preserving a rugged and commanding chapter of natural history. Baxter State Park occupies the northern interior of Maine with a vast granite wilderness that remains largely untouched by modern infrastructure. The dominant landmark is Mount Katahdin, the northern terminus of the Appalachian Trail. This rugged landscape reveals terrain heavily sculpted by ancient glaciers, exposing a harsh geological environment shaped by immense natural forces. The greatest challenge lies along Knife Edge, a narrow ridge resembling the blade of a knife suspended above deep valleys. The exposed rock surface is cracked, weathered, and devoid of trees, forcing hikers to crouch against powerful winds that sweep across the ridge. Beneath the towering cliffs lie dark glacial lakes that occupy depressions as carved by ancient ice. The cold waters remain chilled for much of the year, creating conditions that limit the growth of many plant species. This protected wilderness provides critical habitat for moose and black bears. Life persists within the solitude of a sub-Arctic-influenced climate where survival depends upon constant adaptation. The combined forces of geology and time have preserved a rugged and isolated landscape that remains largely disconnected from the outside world.